God, we're nearing 150 episodes of this dreck. 150 episodes.
Donald, what the heck is this script?
150 episodes of this absolute nonsense.
Donald, what is this? We're supposed to be doing another ad about some writing-themed product, and this is the script you sent me? This is absolute nonsense.
No, this is the succinct representation of what this show really is. We're nearing 150 episodes, David, and all these ads for writing-themed products have the exact same formula.
Oh, come on. I don't know about the exact same.
The exact same! Here, let's do the script, and I guarantee you our audience, just by having listened to the 150 episodes worth of this buffoonery, will still understand exactly what's happening through context alone. That's how formulaic we've become.
When did you get so cynical lately, Donald? Is everything okay?
Everything's fine! Just read the script!
This script? You really think our audience will get it?
I guarantee you they will. I've been doing this for 30 years, and this is all the same! The same!
All right. I suppose we're doing this. Glop goop, garp goobly doo ta blah blah boop. Blah boop boop garble gooble doo. Glop goop?
Gop doop globble dobba globla gop dop. Blop gar brobble dobble doop dop doop dop. Blah gar dooble blah goop dap blar doop doop blop dop gabba dobba.
Gop boop doop ploo doop glabba dabba?
Glop! Gop bloop doop bloop dop doop dabba glabba.
Boop dop doop glob goob. Dop glabba dabba darp blue bloobs.
Larp!
Gop doop deep dooboo grop gop blue blarp boop dap doop glabba dabba dooboo. Deep dobby dooba garbloop groopoos glob doop darb stop doop derp glabba dabba doo darble dop glorb dabba darp boop doo.
Bop glop dop, barp boop doop dop glop dop, darp doop dop glop dobby 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 doop dobby. Blop, my glop dooba dobby dobby garba doop garble booble dop.
Dop goop doable glop goop. Doop glabba dabba dooboo dark gloop boop doo glabba dabba doop blop bloob. Dop doop blub darble plooby plop parable bloop glabba dabba.
Glarp doop globble dop droop. Dop glarp doop dop globble dobba globba dobba dooboo.
Darp doop glob glop goop. Darp doop glob goob darble doobs. Blob doobie blob glarp goop glob boob blop blarp blue blue blob grop gop. Glob doop globba dabba doobed bloob blob darbloob. Wow, Donald, I hate to say it, but you're kind of right. I knew exactly what was going on there.
Right? The formula's set in stone. This show's gone to the toilet, Gop Tap.
You said it, Glop Goop. Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of The Ritwit, the show with the brevity of Charles Dickens, the seriousness of Dave Barry, the quality of Stephanie Meyer, and the timeliness of George R.R. Martin.
What a great combination. Succinct, perfect amalgamation of everything the Ritwit encapsulates. George R.R. Martin, you gotta write your stuff. And speaking of writing your stuff...
I can't even frown at that one. That was actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's because I looked at it and thought of it like as before we started recording. I was like, that worked.
Oh, I'm just salivating at the opportunity to make the segue.
And now we've ruined it. So what we at the Ritwit have read. You go first, Dave.
All right. In the decidedly non-fun aisle, I've been working up some stuff to give my students for my new job teaching private music lessons. It's a new frontier for me, so there are plenty of nerves, as I have to create relationships with these students from zero, plus determine how much I can actually assist them in reaching their goals.
Right.
That process is more like collaboration than I ever considered, despite spending years taking privately.
Yes, of course.
Anyway.
Yeah, so how's that writing? Again, I know we were stretched.
No, I've literally drawn up documents.
Oh. Well, then that is writing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I actually typed out a questionnaire. I had to type up a bio and do writing about myself in the third person because I'm not very well practiced in it was really weird.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It separates yourself. It's a good, philosophical thing. It's existential.
As I said, these students come in knowing nothing about who I am, what makes me different, what makes me qualified. So, okay, I got to give them a little bit of information. So I just made it a printout so I don't have to waste time explaining it as much and they can just read it for themselves on their own leisure. Plus, if they fill out the questionnaire, hopefully, I have yet to get one back, so I don't know how it'll go.
We'll see how it goes.
But
tune in next time. With tears.
I have a feeling that you won't hear about this in the next What We at the Rich Wit have writ. But anyway.
It's a month from now.
As I said, you probably won't hear about it because it'll have been too long. But anyway, the idea of the questionnaire is that they can kind of help guide me where they want to go.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's the point of that. In the more fun aisle,
yes,
I have a shiny new project that I've been sinking time into, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme because no one will see it except me. One of those old things.
Right, of course.
I will add it has to do with research of a kind which contributes to its unpublishable status.
Man.
Oh, and I almost finished the episode of Starburst I'm working on today.
Ooh, this sounds like a bunch of stuff. Who are you? What have you done with David?
Which, to be fair on that, I'm a bit overdue. I'm turning
there
over
he
my
is.
co-author.
There he is.
But I'm excited for the particular scenes I'm working on.
Yeah, as you should be. I'm sure they're great. I did enjoy what I read of Starburst, so I'm sure season 2 is
I
going to be...
really hope you read more so we get free feedback. But anyway.
I hope season 2 is more of the same, but bigger, as the sequel should be.
Well, the page length per episode is longer, so maybe...
Well, you're writing it, so...
No, we did that. We actually set a page length limit for both because that way, I may have to rein myself in, but my co-author who's not
stretch himself out.
No, not stretch himself out, but that it gives him something that's not as intimidating.
Yeah, that's true.
Give him a little bit of time to get experience, do some more writing, which he has not done as much of as I. That said, we upped it for season 2.
Right.
Which means we can have fewer episodes, we can fit more things into an episode, those kind of considerations.
Right.
How about you, though, Don?
Of course. Well, progress on getting Tesla ready for publication has been churning along.
Just about as much as those Tesla machines. You'll have to read about it.
Yeah. It's like a machine, kind of chugs along, and like a good train, or like a...
I wasn't sure if I was going to do that or if I was going to talk about and possibly spoil, so I decided not to.
Just some charge is... It's gaining charge.
Some electrical charge is placed in the right place, and it just fizzles out into
perfect sound effect for it. I should have you do the sound effects for the audiobook. And then he turned on the machine, and the machine was on. So I've contacted a cover illustrator who, by the time this episode comes out, will have hopefully sent me an invoice as he gets to work on some cover concepts. So that's pretty cool. They were actually recommended to me by the marketing company that helped me a bit with the Megazoic books after they were all out. But this time, they'll help me before it comes out.
From the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Before it comes out, too, to hype it up, which is good. And a friend of the show, Stephen Curl, has also recommended me an editor who's apparently the editor that he used to work with. And I've looked over his edits. Like he showed me like his document of how this editor has edited it for him. And it's pretty cool. And also this editor is apparently much cheaper than the one I used for Megazoic books. I think in hindsight I got ripped off.
Oh well.
You live and learn. I should have done more. I should have done more research about it. Wouldn't you say?
And speaking of which,
I'm getting better at doing 2 segues an episode. God.
Don't get your hopes up. Don't encourage him either.
And again, I'm really good at ruining them right away.
Well, no, you did fine. I decided to make the point. Anyway,
I'm the one who was like, "Oh, I'm gonna pat myself on the back for this segue." All right.
It will be like, okay, we got to end now. We cannot get any better when we have all of his segues that hit and we don't distract ourselves from following up on them.
Yes. That's
maybe for the 200th episode.
200th episode, we'll have a montage of all the segues. Someone better do their research on all the segues we've got. And speaking of which, what do we got? Go!
Ow, that hurt. Writers in the updraft of inspiration are capable of committing a cardinal sin in creative writing.
Yes.
Plowing ahead without knowing enough of the source material.
I've been there.
It's only natural that a writer gets out over their skis as they try skipping from the bunny slopes straight to the cool, bombastic double black diamond runs. They're fun if you know how to ski or snowboard. Not to discourage.
I prefer to use a snowmobile.
A snowmobile, you probably don't want to handle those either. Because
I prefer to use a dog sleigh.
You might go flying several times, in fact.
I prefer to use a Santa sleigh with my reindeer.
Yeah, because then you're flying over it. But I mean, the big thing is that I cannot figure out. I've never tried snowboarding. I cannot figure out why
That
some people
surprises
prefer to, instead of putting a strip of wood under both feet, put all of their weight on one wider strip of wood.
Because it looks cooler.
My brother was a snowboarder. I've always
Snowboarding
been a skier.
is for jocks. Skiing is for nerds.
Apparently, if you want to simplify it. Anyway,
Okay.
so fixing this problem is very simple.
Yes.
But it's time-consuming, man.
Ah,
All the
who
things
has
I could be doing.
Who has the time for that?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I've got more 90210 to watch. I don't know.
Do you know that reference?
No.
There was a news item where some house was like had a fire, and there was a lady who lived in the apartment complex. It was an apartment, not a house. But anyway, she lived at the apartment complex, who became very famous for a couple of responses that she made on her interview after the incident. One of them was saying, you got to hide your wife, hide your kids. And then the other one was, ain't nobody got time for that. And so somebody literally made like DJ-style remix with a bunch of,
those.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
They're taking the hobbits 2 ways in God, 2 ways in God, 2 ways in God.
Anyway, here's a thought, though.
Yes.
What kind of writers are prone to doing this?
The ones who get super excited about an idea, want to rush into it, and get all their ideas on the page, they tend to do this. Like, they're the ones, like, or the folks that are doing this for contractual obligation or other sort of thing. They're just like,
We might have more to say about them
I'm just
next week.
Getting it done. I just slap keyboard like a seal.
Slapdash.
Slap my flippers on it like a seal and just not give a care about what time period it takes place in. Or
I think seal was the key here, but remember, did you come out when I was in Forever Plaid?
Yeah, remember Chris?
Yes, you came.
Friend of the show who's been in a couple episodes, Christina Franklin and I saw you. So.
That's right. But do you remember in the song Lady of Spain, which they were spoofing the Ed Sullivan Show?
No.
And so we're doing the entire Ed Sullivan Show in like 3 minutes and something seconds or whatever, and so all the rest of us that aren't doing the solo are coming back and backstage, flipping props, changing costumes, doing all these different bits.
I think I remember this now.
And so there's one point where I'm coming out with on my knees and I'm clapping my hands and I've got this blow up, this inflatable beach ball in my mouth, and I'm imitating a seal. Earth, 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 earth.
Seal noises are so fun to make. Arf, 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 arf. That's the character of Banjo-Kazooie. You're just like
Banjo-Kazooie is actually a really fun game. I just never got to play it.
There's a lot of good noises in Banjo-Kazooie.
Well, I mean, they don't really use speech. They just use noise. All right, enough of the banjo jokes. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, sorry.
Anyways, so basically it's people who either care too much or don't care enough. And I have no idea in this show which one we are.
Which one of us is which?
No, I know in that regard.
Oh, okay.
But even then, no, I feel like we both simultaneously care
so
much about this show
and not enough at all.
Not at all about it. Like,
all right, but
you gotta care.
Is there a Goldilocks?
Yeah, you gotta care in that perfect, adequate Goldilocks amount. If you want to write something cool, you gotta put the work into it. I know.
Well,
this.
okay, you can put the work into it, but like more than just the work of writing it, you gotta put the legwork of researching it.
I mean, speaking of Tesla knots, like I went from writing a story about dinosaurs, which I love, in this world that, while it's prehistoric world, I can still kind of just make up, into writing in a historical time period.
Which you can't really make up.
With actual nations and factions. I mean, not factions. Some factions are real, but like, actual, like, historical figures.
You're only taking some liberties. Yeah. I love historical fiction is one of my favorite genres.
Right.
It really is.
And part of the reason why I did this was to deliberately challenge myself. And that's also part of the reason why, I mean, I have an idea where I want the sequel to go, and I do. I've got some really good ideas. But starting it, it's more of a hassle to me, because it's like, I got to be like, I got to research this part and this part and this part to make sure I'm doing this right. And rather for Megasaw could be like, this would be cool.
Small spoiler alert, your sequels, if they're in different time periods, you're going to have to do that research anyway for that time period.
Oh, no, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm doing more research for other things, so...
Yeah. Now, I think the kind of writers that are prone to, like, oh, I don't care about learning how to ride up the magic carpet and ski down the bunny slope. I'm going to hit the massive double black diamond moguls, kill my knees, fall down in a giant snowball because I can't do this.
It's called a magic carpet?
The ski lift, it's literally just like built into the hill.
Oh, those.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like a ski resort. But it's like sand.
No.
In what the Arabian Nights used for their resorts.
So on a bunny slope.
No, I know what you're talking about. The ones where you just hold on. Yeah. I know those are called magic carpets.
Those are referred to as magic carpets. Yeah. Anyway, less experienced writers.
Mm-hmm.
Creators who suffer from impatience.
Yes.
Whimsical people that can't focus long enough to think through what was that? I'm kidding. To think through what they desire before it's off to the next shiny object.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting that any of these types of writers are incapable of writing good stuff, by the way.
Yes.
Just to cover that base.
Yeah.
But the qualities I just described correlate with people who won't take the proper time beforehand to research and set up a more successful surface to work from with that particular story idea.
Right. That makes sense.
Heck, I'm a little impulsive about writing ideas down that end up merely gathering dust because they weren't terribly good to begin with. Right. So I get it. Right. Just imagine if I tried writing something I knew next to nothing about and hoped to pass it off as feasible or accurate. Yikes.
That should be fun.
Well, like me writing hard sci-fi? Ha ha ha. Our friend Alan would hate me for saying that.
You'd find that funny. Like, well, that's one of the reasons, again, like I wrote about dinosaurs. I like dinosaurs. I do research on dinosaurs without having to.
Well, you did research without feeling like it was work.
Yeah. Well, like, I'm just like, oh, look at this dinosaur. Look at this dinosaur. This dinosaur's so cool.
Ah, dang it. That genus doesn't exist anymore. Why did they kill off the Dracorex?
No, they haven't. They will not. They did not. Jack Horner has said they would. They're not going to. I refuse.
And for more on that, there's an exact episode of Paleobites you can listen to.
Episode 25 of Paleobites. Talk all about talk all about Dracorex with friend of the show and a couple time guest host Lexi Ryan.
Anyways,
so
all right. Now this is probably going to be a subjective question.
Oh,
but here's how we go. What kind of time must you sink into learning about the subject before it's, air quotes, adequate enough to write more correctly?
I think it depends on how accurate you're attempting to be. Like, sometimes we intentionally don't aim for accuracy.
Parody, perhaps.
Yeah, like, sometimes I want to be as accurate as possible. So it all depends on what kind of story you're trying to tell and how you want to tell it.
Yeah.
Like, The Emperor's New Groove.
Notably very accurate movie, by the way.
There are some things where it is kind of. If you look at like that movie is
I love how you're qualifying that with that is kind of.
That movie takes place in the Inca Empire. Like
right.
It's not the Aztecs, it's not the Mayans, it is the Inca, and you can tell based on the environment and the style of architecture. There are certain like places where if you can see these big hills with like these teeny tiny bridges between them and like these places that looks just like something out of the movie. However, it's also a silly.
It is a movie.
I know, well, just something out of the movie. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
But it is like it is of course a silly zany comedy, so it makes a lot of things and other things.
Taking liberties with something is one thing. If you're doing it intentionally.
Yes, but here's the thing, that like. Bring up a point that one thing they did that wasn't accurate, that wasn't for a comedic reason. When Pacha is leaving the palace and he's got his llama and he's taking not the llama, his own llama. He has the cart with all of his supplies that he is accidentally realizes he's carrying Cusco with him. He's in a cart. The llama's pulling the cart and he's walking along with it. The cart has wheels.
Which didn't exist.
They did, just not in the Mesoamerica. They did not invent wheels. They carried everything.
So they put it on the llama's back and call it good, basically.
Yeah, so they were actually contemplating whether not to do that, but they're like, this isn't that kind of movie. Yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, parody, it's gonna be one of those things that you take liberties intentionally with the material.
I mean, like later on.
As opposed to simply taking liberty with the material because you don't understand the material.
That's true. No, they knew that was unrealistic, but they Did
they decided, okay, we're going to go this way.
Because later on they go to a greasy restaurant that looks like a 50s diner. Like,
yeah, that totally existed in the Inca culture.
So what's it? Like all the cooking lingo that Kronk says. Three porkers wearing pants, basket of hot air, basket of grandma's breakfast, and changeable 2 guilt. Got it. Like, those are all real terms. That's kitchen lingo.
Fair enough.
Porkers wearing pants is kind of like a bacon and eggs or something. There's like
maybe like a hot dog with a bun or something.
Yeah, it's
porkers wearing pants.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a real term.
I'm sure. I'm sure they did enough research. But like, do you think there's a line at certain fields that you have to get right every time?
Yeah. I mean, if it's like a really intense, like serious subject matter that needs to be treated with gravitas,
like
the Holocaust.
No, I was more referring to subject matter as opposed to like topics, if that makes sense.
Well, what do you mean? Like, so right here. It's good to get key things right about history and science, but like it also like it's good to know when to be a bit looser, you know.
Yeah. Black sheriff?
He's
what?
Black?
It worked in Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah.
All right. As if that answered everything.
Well, I've seen Blazing Saddles. Who wouldn't? It's a good movie, even though they lived in 12th century.
Yeah. Well before the Wild West was supposedly a thing.
And
anyway.
well before the movie Blazing Saddles came.
Mel Brooks is all funny to me, but I don't know. I haven't seen all of it, but
everything
I've seen is really hilarious.
96 years old, and the man
better get Spaceballs too, quick.
He is still sharp as a tack, man. Like, if we see him, videos of him.
They said my grandfather had the mind of a steel trap, one that had rusted shut.
That sounds like a quote your dad would say.
That's literally a quote I've heard from somebody. I can't remember where. Now, as far as what kind of time you need to sink into this topic research-wise before it's adequate, that is up to you, the creator, and how you plan to use the subject material. Mm-hmm. Making things sound official is doable even without the research, but it won't pass the sniff test of those who actually know the subject innately. I can't randomly I'm just going to throw a compsognathus into my story and use it completely anatomically incorrect, functions wrong, the diet is wrong, and somebody like Donald over here is going to look at that and say, this idiot doesn't have a clue.
I mean, depending on the story it is, I'll just be like, oh, look, a compsognathus. Like, if it's like, because like, if it's like,
okay, fine, a bad example.
If it's like a story that like has dinosaurs and you throw compsognathus, it's all wrong. I point it out. But if it's like, I don't know,
but if it's the only dinosaur,
hey, look, a standard romantic comedy starring Jennifer Aniston
and the compsognathus,
Hugh Grant, and then they're just out having company. The compsognathus shows. I'm like, whoa, like, look at that,
infinitely cooler. Okay, fine, I'll use a different example then for another friend of mine who is a Whovian.
Yes.
If I managed to throw in a mention about the Doctor, but it happened to be the wrong incarnation of the Doctor, he'd be like, oh, that totally doesn't work because I wouldn't have gone through the problem of researching.
If you do the thing that I like to say to troll people, it's like, oh, like you like Doctor Who? Which is your favorite Doctor Who? Which of the Doctor Who's is your favorite? Like,
who's your favorite Doctor?
Who's your favorite Doctor Who? Like, oh, that's a good Doctor Who. I like the show Doctor Who. Look at the character Doctor Who go. Go on, Doctor Who.
Apparently there's a big deal in the fan base, and I've interacted with a couple other Whovians online, that the difference between what is a series and what is a season. And a lot of it is parlance, but some of it apparently by the show itself has to do with like the era the thing was broadcasted, and it's a mess. Anyway.
Anyways, my favorite Doctor Who is Emmett L. Brown. But anyways, so
have you seen those meme pictures that like they'll just have this random cluster of things that are random, and it's like and then every time you see the caption on one of these, it's like the more I look at it, the more offended I get.
Yes. Yes, I know those things. But anyways, so
now that said, if you don't care if it passes the sniff test, obviously that's your own business. But I think it's probably not a great idea to include it if it's something you don't at least have a basic knowledge of.
Right.
My rule of thumb here is don't waste a moment trying to write blind.
I mean, I wouldn't do that
as
anyways,
in without proper knowledge of the subject you're including, not
literally wrting blindfolded.
Do some light reading about it and make adjustments as necessary for those early parts, but you don't have to lose the impetus of wanting to write in that moment if you're ready to go on, and you just go back and kind of, okay, well, I need to make sure that the axle is actually connected on the car before it can drive out of the lot here and all that fun stuff.
Right.
So if you continue to use the concept, it's going to be more of an investment in that research phase.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a once-off, it doesn't hardly matter.
No.
Because it doesn't have to pass the sniff test. It's there and gone, and all of a sudden, I'm on to the
there
next
goes
thing already.
The Compsognathus. No one cared except for Matt, who just squeed at it. and then there it goes. It could have just been a lizard.
How much you can hand wave affects the research needed by measure of time.
Yes.
But if you haven't spent a few hours learning more to accurately represent a concept, that's not enough to do that thing justice in your story.
No, I wouldn't think so.
However, it's eye of the beholder, knowing your intent, knowing your audience, knowing your material.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
yes.
Don't take my word for it if you feel like doing it differently. How can you exceed the limits of such a bad story germ to make it good content?
Do more research than your audience expects. Oh, you thought this was a big, dumb action story? Psych! You just learned something about missile ballistics or the stock market.
What is the difference between a bull and a bear market, for example?
Yep, this was just a romantic comedy.
Zing! There goes the Compsognathus!
I was going to say that! Zing! You just learned something about the music industry or financial districts or about the dinosaur Compsognathus.
Even if it was actually incorrect information.
Thought this was just a horror novella? Blah. You just learned about World War I or retirement pensions.
Or the War of the Ring, maybe, depending on the story you're doing.
Or the Lord of the Flies.
Have you read Lord of the Flies?
No.
I mentioned that as a thing that I read a while back.
I think I remember. I have played the great tabletop game Lord of the Fries. Is that the same thing?
I don't know about Lord of the Fries, but I'm assuming not.
Anyways.
We better make sure that Lawrence listens to this episode.
Point is, one way to do this is sprinkle in some fun factoids and tidbits to educate your readers in a way they might not expect. That's one way to do it anyways. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer to me is research and revision. Not suggesting that the revision won't be big, by the way.
Yes.
Just that an unprepared writer is in trouble by not knowing enough about certain subjects that are pertinent in their story.
I had to do my research in Tesla knots.
If your main set,
yes,
using theater terms here, is a spaceship, but you don't understand physics in space,
then you're writing Star Wars.
That qualifies as a problem that science-y types will shred on criticism. But if the spaceship operates in a fantasy setting such that science is expected to be hand-waved, it doesn't matter as much.
No, when I watch Treasure Planet and I see these wooden ships with solar sails with
that
the
can
crewmen,
apparently float
just
in space.
Out in the open.
No helmets, nothing.
Nothing, they're just out in space. I expect it to be realistic, damn it.
Screw trying to modernize Treasure Island. Who cares?
Or sci-fi eyes. I want me some hard science.
I need me some space helmets.
That was the only problem. The rest of it's totally fine. As long as they're wearing helmets.
As long as they're affected by the gravity of their ship wearing a space helmet, it's fine.
They explain. They had an artificial gravity thing.
Okay.
They went out of their way to explain that. And to be fair, they kind of explain the other thing. They're like, they don't call it space. They do call it space, but they call it the ethereum. They call it the ethereum, the winds of the ethereum. It's kind of it's like a gaseous sort of substance, similar to oxygen that's out there. Anyways, Treasure Planet's great.
It is an interesting movie. I was just thinking of unironically, I was thinking of a Senshi from a Sentai show who had a roll call of the seas are mine and the seas of space are also mine.
Space is an ocean. That's how a lot of people like to compare it. Planets are islands, ships are ships. When you have a captain of a ship, it's a captain of a ship up in space. You don't have a pilot. I mean, I guess you do have some pilots, but you don't have a driver.
And if you have an explorer, he's called an astronaut, is the difference. Anyway.
But not like nautical. like,
Different knot, I guess.
For more on knots, look at my upcoming book, Tesla Knots.
I was going to say, no, we're talking about boats, dang it, on the speed of an ocean. Anyway.
We're talking about boats, not.
Have I ever told you the frayed knot?
Oh, God. Oh, yes, you have.
I won't do it again.
Yes, you have. Multiple times.
I won't do it again.
It's a great joke. Listeners, look up the frayed knot joke. Spelled F-R-A-Y-E-D, and now I just ruined the joke for you.
Well, yes and no. We'll get through the rest of the episode, and then I'll tell it, and Matt and Donald can decide to keep it in or not. But anyway, while I do encourage stretching your wings as a writer.
Yes. Spreading my wings?
No, stretching. Trying to increase
I've
your
heard
wings.
both ways. Well, I've heard it mainly spreading, but I'll trust you.
It's not going to hit right if you haven't done some form of legwork beforehand to understand the material. So do that!
Yes.
I know I've mentioned it, but I bring it up here because this is relevant again.
Yes.
The scene that I did where my character was in like a boxing ring and got in a fight with another character.
Yeah.
I've never written about that before. Is it accurate? I don't know. I'm not sure I care. I'm proud of myself for writing that.
Did they wear gloves?
Yes.
Well, then that's all I care about.
We've crossed that Rubicon. Okay. All right. Now, without getting too like encyclopedic of our own, how do you find adequate information for your topic? Now, that varies from subject to subject, but are there any like universal tips or tricks for this?
Tipperoonies, you might say?
Tipperoonies, you might say. God, it's been a while.
It has been a while. I actually think it's probably been sooner than we think.
Probably sooner than we think.
Talk about last set, honestly. Anyways, look, I know most of us were trained in college to avoid Wikipedia like the plague, but come on, Wikipedia's great. As long as you verify all the sources in the handy little references section at the bottom of each article, there's nothing inherently wrong with it.
I'm going to throw out the caveat that Wikipedia with a good editor is great. But with somebody just going in and editing stuff because they feel like changing it, usually that's where the bad reputation
And that's the thing. Anyone can edit it is the thing. So that's what you got to verify, you know? If you look it up on Wikipedia, look it up again somewhere else. But it's a good way to start.
Well,
it's nice and organized.
And they do have usually like references. You can click down to the bottom and then click through to a reference that they've cited for you.
And if they haven't cited, just look it up somewhere else and see if it's also accurate. But also look up specific books and journals that detail more of what you're getting into, not just one, preferably a bunch of them, so you can get multiple accounts of the same information, get an overall broader picture.
Now, with mathematics, something like 2 + 2 = 4, I'm pretty sure there aren't going to be too many books telling you something different.
There's the thing called abstract algebra that as soon as I learned about that, my brain just went, frick math. and
everything I knew was a lie.
Have you seen Common Core? What is that madness? Like, how do they change it? Why would they change math?
Because it's about the process and not the result.
Nah. It is all about the results.
I'm rolling my eyes.
About the results.
The listeners can't see I'm rolling my eyes heavily at this. But anyway, anybody who's written a research paper and gotten full marks knows the answer to this question because that process is identical.
It is.
For those of you who haven't been so lucky, at least in results, be sure not to rely solely on one overview and call it good, unless it's intentional. I mean, Donald did talk about something for comedic reasons or personal choice reasons prior as well.
Yes.
Collate some different things together. Make sure all the sources are reputable rather than random. Be sure to pace yourself so there's no burnout before you can use what you're learning.
Right, exactly.
Or that you get so engrossed in the research you avoid duties you're supposed to be doing instead. Whoops.
Well, that sounds like a problem I'd like to have, doing too much research.
Okay, story behind that.
Oh, God.
Quick story.
Yes.
I was at work.
Yes.
And I was about to take my Japanese driver's test.
Okay. That was different from America. It's just a different side of the road.
It's a different side of the road from a different side of the car, but the test itself is more compared to as driving ceremony than your actual ability to drive.
And I guess to be fair, like, your driver's license only applies to America or Colorado, honestly, in general. But like,
well, U.S., but I.
So it makes sense you'd get a new one for
but
another country.
But I needed to get a Japanese driver's license, and I was pretty worried about the test. So I went online and I found a bunch of like advice from former jets, so people who had gone to Japan to teach English and stuff like that, and just reading what they had to say. And I got so lost in this because I was like, oh my God, it's tomorrow. I got to figure this out because I do not want to screw this up. I need to pass the first try or I'm going to have to pay way too much for driving school, which teaches you how to pass the test rather than how to actually drive.
That's true.
Figure that one out.
That's often how school works.
So I'm looking at all these things and I get a phone call. Somebody behind me answers the phone. And it was from the town library. And they said, aren't you supposed to be reading here? And I, so engrossed in what I was doing, completely did not think about what they were saying. I'm like, wait, isn't that tomorrow? And thought it was something else entirely. So I totally missed out on that thing that I was contractually obligated to do because I was sitting at my computer reading about the driver's tests the next day. By the way, I did pass.
Yeah, well, that's good. It wasn't entirely all for nothing.
It wasn't all for naught, but nevertheless, it's just like, oh my God.
You kind of bring up a point, though. Like, you got to do the research. We got to not get so enveloped into the research. Like,
I mean, unless you have the means to do that, in which, great, go for it.
Well, it's like, okay, one more tangent before it's it for this
Please.
week. So, there's an episode of Big Bang Theory where Leonard is a little upset that like Penny, when they're dating, isn't inviting him over to watch this football game where all her friends are there, but she didn't invite him, and was like, well, we're dating, why didn't you invite me? And like at first he thought that was because he's so insecure, and I can relate, that she was embarrassed about him, his friends. Turns out it's because she like realized, I don't think you care about football. And so I was like, okay, well, why don't you come in next week and like we can watch it then. And then at first he's like, okay, I'm trying to learn football, whatever. So he tried to watch some of it like on his own, like, what is this? Turns out Sheldon, who grew up in Texas, knows everything about football because he had to.
It is Texas.
It's like Howard's like, wait, Sheldon knows football? I mean, Quidditch, sure, but football? and so Sheldon teaches Leonard, and so now Leonard knows about it too much, to the point where when he's at the party with their friends, they're complaining about the call. It's like, oh no, that was the standard procedure,
right
like they used to call this thing or to save time, you know. It's like, oh look, Oklahoma is doing this thing, it's challenging the thing here. Well, I hope that they're worth it because it's going to cost them one of their 3 timeouts. And everyone just stares at him. He's like, Penny's like, you can go if you want. It's like, wait, this game's almost over. I can stick around. It's like, oh, that's just the halftime. This is just half. Yeah, that's my boyfriend. He's really smart.
Quick study too.
Yeah. Anyways.
Well, I mean, if you have no obligations to worry about for the while, then why not?
Why not? Anyways, that's it for this week. Why not could be the tagline for
this entire
podcast. What else do you have to do?
Why not?
I want to be a
Wobba
writer.
Fett.
Anyways, all right. A huge thank you to all our patrons so far, including Matthew H.
The support means the world to us. We can keep making some exclusive content for you, and it helps us out with, getting the studio, doing some other fun stuff. So we really do appreciate your contribution.
It's so close to making a profit, guys. I would love for this show to make a profit.
I would too, but that's a different story. Anyway,
so
yeah, if you want to check out how to do that, their link will be in the description, patreon.com/Matthew Donald.
Yes.
And any support means the world to us.
Yes.
But if you happen to donate at a certain tier, you'll get access to our exclusiv content for this and Donald's other podcast,
yes.
Paleo Bites.
All right.
Cha-ching!
Cha-ching indeed. But if you want to follow me personally, you can contact me at mattd@MatthewDonaldCreator.com for any questions to either co-host.
If you have episode ideas, you got Rotten Tomatoes to throw at us, you got comments about things we've done, or you just want to ask a question about your own writing, please, if you have to address it to David or Donald, that'd be helpful.
Yes.
Or else we have to assume on context. That doesn't always work well.
No, it doesn't. But if you don't follow me personally, you can follow me at Matthew Donald Creator on Facebook, at Matthew Donald 64 on Twitter, and Matthew Donald 64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because that's how many of my anti-vaxxer friends have died from COVID this year. Shocking, right?
Oh my gosh, positively shocking.
I mean, where did I get 64 friends? I guess I don't have many more. Get vaccinated, folks. Anyways, all right. Well,
I believe we managed to write the good right.
And writ the good writs. I'm Matt Donald.
I'm Matt David. Until next time, I will leave you with this thought.
Yes.
Stay safe, wash your hands, all that fun stuff.
Yep.
And if Donald keeps it in, the frayed not joke.
Yes. And I thought you were going to say, I'll leave you from this great quote from William Shakespeare. Let's get out of here.
No, I wasn't going there. So, Rope walks into a bar, and the bartender looks at him kind of funny and sizes him up, says, "Are you a rope?" "Yes, I am." "Well, get out of here. We don't serve ropes in this town." So the rope comes out of the bar and still really thirsty, so walks down the street a little ways and into the next bar on the road and goes in. Bartender looks at him kind of funny and, "Are you a rope?" "Yes, I am."
I like how peppy the rope is.
"Well, get out of here. We don't serve ropes in this town." And the rope comes out of the second bar now, feeling very, very dejected. Why is it being discriminated against? So he thinks for a second, ties himself in a knot, parts his ends, walks down the street a little ways into a third bar. Bartender looks at him kind of funny and says, "Are you a rope?" "Nope, I'm afraid not."
But get the hell out of here, listeners. Get the hell out of here.
The Read
This show's gone to the toilet, Gop Tap.
You said it, Glop Goop.